I never imagined life would turn out this way. One moment I was just another guy with dreams, a steady job, and a future I thought I had figured out. The next, I was a single dad, fighting to keep my world from crumbling. My son, Jaden, was only 6 when his mother left. No warning, no explanation, just a note on the kitchen counter that read, "I can't do this anymore." At first, I was numb. Then came the panic. How was I supposed to raise a kid alone? I had a decent job at a hardware store, but it barely covered the rent. Bills piled up. Jaden needed clothes, school supplies, food. Some nights I skipped dinner just to make sure he had enough. He never knew. I made sure of that. Mornings were the hardest. Waking up before the sun, dragging my exhausted body out of bed after barely a few hours of sleep. I had to make Jaden's breakfast, pack his lunch, and get him to school before rushing to work. I'd be late sometimes, traffic, a forgotten lunchbox, or Jaden clinging to me at the school gate, afraid I wouldn't be there when he got out. My boss wasn't the most understanding guy. "You're lucky to have this job," he'd say every time I apologized for being late. And I was. But luck doesn't pay the bills. I was falling behind on rent. My landlord wasn't a bad guy, but he had his own problems. "I need something by next week," he told me one evening. I nodded, pretending I had a plan. Truth was, I didn't. Jaden, though, he was my reason to keep pushing. No matter how exhausted I was, I made sure to be there for him. We had this little routine. After dinner, we'd sit on the couch and he'd tell me about his day. His stories were the best part of my day, even when they were just about how he drew a dinosaur in art class, or how Mrs. Callahan gave him a gold star for spelling. One night, he looked up at me and said, "Dad, when I grow up, I want to be rich so I can buy you a big house, and you don't have to work so much." I forced a smile, ruffled his hair, and said, "That's sweet, buddy, but you don't have to worry about that." He just hugged me tighter. I lay awake that night staring at the ceiling. I needed a way out. A second job? But then who would watch Jaden? Loans? I was already drowning in debt. I scrolled through my phone, looking for answers, hoping for a miracle. Nothing. The breaking point came one evening at the grocery store. I had $20 in my pocket and a cart full of necessities: milk, bread, eggs, some fruit for Jaden. At checkout, the total flashed on the screen: $24.87. I felt my face burn as I pulled out the few crumpled bills I had. The cashier gave me that look, half pity, half impatience. I took out the apples, the cheese, anything I could do without. Jaden saw. He didn't say anything, but I saw the way his little hands clenched into fists. On the way home, he was quiet. Then finally, he whispered, "It's okay, Dad. We didn't need those anyway." That hurt more than anything. That night, I sat on the edge of my bed, my head in my hands. Something had to change. But how? Where was the break I needed? How do you climb out of a hole when the ground keeps sinking beneath you? I had no idea that my answer was coming through the most unexpected person. The day started like any other, exhausting. I had just finished a 10-hour shift at the hardware store, my feet aching, my head pounding from the endless cycle of customers, inventory checks, and the constant worry gnawing at the back of my mind. Rent was overdue. Again. Jaden's school had sent a reminder about an upcoming field trip. $50. Might as well have been $500. I didn't have it. I picked Jaden up from school, forcing a smile as he climbed into the back seat of my battered old car. "Hey, buddy, how was your day?" "Good. We learned about planets. Did you know Jupiter has 67 moons?" His eyes lit up as he spoke. That was the thing about Jaden. He could find excitement in the smallest things, even when our world was falling apart. "That's a lot of moons," I said, trying to match his energy. "Yeah, but Saturn's cooler. It has rings." I nodded, letting him ramble on about space as we pulled into a gas station. I had exactly $12 left after buying groceries the night before, and I needed at least 5 of it for gas to get to work tomorrow. As I pumped, Jaden stared at a vending machine near the entrance, his fingers twitching like he wanted to reach into his pocket for imaginary money. I knew what he wanted. A simple snack, maybe a bag of chips or a candy bar. Things other kids got without thinking twice. Things I had to say no to more often than I wanted. "Not today, buddy," I said softly. He didn't argue, just nodded and turned away, but I saw the disappointment in his eyes. Inside the station, I went to pay, pulling out my crumpled bills when a deep voice behind me said, "I got it." I turned, confused. A tall guy stood there, dressed casually in a hoodie and sneakers, but there was something familiar about him. His presence was effortless, like he didn't need to try to stand out, he just did. "I appreciate it, man, but I'm good," I said quickly, not wanting to accept charity. "Nah, I insist," he said with a grin. "Looked like your little man wanted something from the vending machine. Let him grab what he wants." I hesitated, but then he nodded toward Jaden, who was still staring at the vending machine. "Let him be a kid, man." Something about the way he said it hit me. I swallowed my pride and gave Jaden the nod. His face lit up as he ran over, pressing the buttons excitedly. The man handed the cashier his card, waving off my protest. As Jaden came back, happily munching on a pack of Skittles, the guy bent down slightly to his level. "Taste the rainbow, huh? That's the good stuff." Jaden grinned, nodding. "Thanks, mister." "What's your name, little man?" "Jaden." "Nice to meet you, Jaden. I'm Shaq." And that's when it hit me. Big Shaq. Not just some random guy, the Big Shaq. I stared at him, my brain taking a second to catch up. "Wait, you're—" He laughed. Yeah, I get that a lot." I shook my head, still processing. Of all the gas stations, of all the people I could run into on a random Tuesday evening, it was him. "Man, I don't even know what to say. My kid loves your music." Shaq smiled. "That's what's up. You know, I used to struggle too. I see a good dad working hard, I respect that." I didn't know what to say. Compliments were rare in my life. "Just trying to do my best," I mumbled. He studied me for a second, then nodded. "You work around here?" "Yeah, hardware store. Long hours, low pay, just trying to keep up." He glanced at Jaden, then back at me. "You off tomorrow?" I frowned, unsure where this was going. "Yeah, why?" Shaq grinned. "Meet me here, same time. I got something for you." I blinked. "What do you mean?" He just patted my shoulder, "Trust me." And just like that, he was gone. I stood there for a long moment, trying to process what had just happened. Jaden looked up at me, still chewing his candy. "Dad, do you think he's going to bring me more Skittles?" I laughed, shaking my head. "I don't know, buddy, but I think something big is about to happen." The next day, I could hardly focus on anything. My shift felt longer than usual, every second dragging as my mind kept replaying the conversation with Shaq. Was this real? Was I being pranked? People didn't just offer help out of nowhere, at least not in my world. By the time my shift ended, I was exhausted but anxious. I picked up Jaden from school, and the whole drive to the gas station he kept asking, "Do you think he'll really be there, Dad?" I didn't have an answer. "Guess we'll find out, buddy." When we pulled into the lot, my heart nearly stopped. Parked near the entrance was a sleek black SUV, the kind of car I had only ever seen in movies. And leaning against it, looking completely at ease, was Shaq. Jaden's eyes widened. "Dad, he's here. He's really here." We got out of the car, and Shaq greeted us with that same easy smile. "Right on time." I nodded, still unsure what was happening. "Man, I appreciate you even showing up, but what's this all about?" Shaq chuckled. "Come with me." He led us across the street to a small diner. Inside, it was quiet, just a few customers scattered around. We slid into a booth, and a waitress immediately came over, clearly recognizing him. "Shaq, you want the usual?" "You know it," he said with a grin, then gestured to me. "And whatever my guy and his little man want." Jaden's face lit up. He ordered pancakes, his favorite, even though it wasn't breakfast time. I just got coffee. My stomach was too tied up in knots to eat. Once the waitress left, Shaq leaned forward. "I meant what I said yesterday. I see a dad working hard, doing his best, and I respect that. I've been there, man. I know what it's like to struggle." I hesitated. "Yeah, but you're Shaq. You're like a legend. How could you ever struggle?" He laughed. "You think I was born rich? Man, I came from nothing. My mom worked her tail off, and I watched her hustle every single day just to put food on the table. She taught me that when you make it, you don't forget where you came from. You give back." I swallowed, unsure where this was going. "I get that, but why me?" He shrugged. "Why not you?" I didn't have an answer for that. After a moment, he reached into his pocket and slid something across the table. A folded piece of paper. I picked it up slowly, unfolding it. My breath caught in my throat. It was a check. A check for $20,000. I stared at it, my hands shaking. I can't take this." Shaq raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" "It's too much. I mean, I appreciate it, but I can't just take your money like that." He leaned back, crossing his arms. "Tell me something. If your son was drowning and a stranger threw you a rope, would you refuse to grab it just because you didn't know them?" I exhaled sharply, looking at Jaden, who was happily cutting into his pancakes, oblivious to what was happening. Shaq continued, "Look, man, this isn't charity. This is a lifeline. I see a good father who just needs a little help. I've been blessed, and I believe in paying it forward. You do what you gotta do with that money. Get caught up on bills. Get your kid what he needs. Maybe even start thinking about a future that ain't just about surviving." I clenched my jaw, my pride screaming at me to say no, but my heart knew better. I thought about the past few months, the skipped meals, the sleepless nights, the overwhelming fear of failing my son. Slowly, I nodded. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." Shaq smiled. "You don't have to say anything. Just promise me one thing. Anything. When you're in a position to help someone else, you do it. You pass it on." I swallowed the lump in my throat and nodded. "I will." And just like that, everything changed. The drive home was silent, except for Jaden humming to himself in the back seat. My mind was spinning. The check felt like it was burning a hole in my pocket, like if I looked at it too long, it might disappear. $20,000. More money than I had ever seen at one time. More money than I had ever dreamed of having. That night, after Jaden fell asleep, I sat at the tiny kitchen table and just stared at it. Bills were piled up next to me. Overdue rent notices, utility warnings, a medical bill from months ago that I had been pretending didn't exist. I could clear all of them. I could finally breathe. But something about Shaq's words wouldn't leave my mind. When you're in a position to help someone else, you do it. You pass it on. I didn't sleep much that night. By morning, I knew what I had to do. First, I took care of my own problems. I paid off the rent and gave my landlord an extra month in advance, just to finally be ahead for once. I settled the utilities, the medical bill, even put aside some for Jaden's school trip and a few months of groceries. But then, I did something I never thought I'd be able to do. At work that day, one of my coworkers, Mike, looked even more exhausted than usual. He was a good guy, a single dad, like me, but he had 2 kids to take care of, and I knew things were tough for him. On my lunch break, I walked up to him. "Hey, man, got a minute?" Mike looked up, surprised. "Yeah, what's up?" I hesitated for a second, then pulled out an envelope and handed it to him. "What's this?" he asked, frowning. "It's something to help out, just take it." He opened it and froze. Inside was a check for $5,000. "Dude, what, I can't take this?" I smiled. "Yeah, you can. Look, someone did something incredible for me. They told me to pass it on when I could. Now, I can." Mike's eyes glistened as he shook his head. I don't know what to say. I clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to say anything. Just promise me that one day, when you're in a position to help someone else, you'll do it." He nodded, swallowing hard. "I will, I swear." A week later, I was sitting at home when my phone buzzed, a message from an unknown number. "Hope you're doing good, brother. Proud of you. Keep passing it on. Shaq." I stared at the message for a long time, then looked over at Jaden, who was playing with his toy cars on the floor. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was drowning. For the first time, I believed that things could really change.